$10.99 a quart. That's what Honda dealerships charge for their genuine motor oil. But flip the bottle around and you'll notice two words most drivers miss. It says distributed by, not manufactured by, American Honda Motor Company. So, who actually makes Honda motor oil? We traced the plant codes, pulled the safety data sheets, and cross-referenced independent lab results. What we found involves a 113-year-old Japanese petroleum company, a quiet deal with Phillips 66, and a formula that costs just $3.20 to produce. The company pouring Honda genuine motor oil is Idemitsu Kosan Company, Limited, Japan's second-largest petroleum refiner. They were founded in 1911, pull in $45.2 billion in annual revenue, and refine 1.2 million barrels of crude per day across 5 refineries in Japan alone. But Idemitsu isn't some contract bottler slapping Honda labels on generic oil. This is a co-engineering relationship that dates back to 1973, over 50 years of shared research and development between two Japanese industrial giants. Here's how it breaks down. Idemitsu refines and supplies API Group 3 synthetic base stocks with a minimum viscosity index of 120 for 0W20 grades. Meanwhile, Honda R&D Co., a separate entity from Honda Motor Engineers' proprietary additive packages at their Tochigi Proving Ground in Japan. Idemitsu then blends those Honda-specified additives into the base oil at designated facilities. And this is where most people get confused. This is not white label rebranding. Honda oil uses a completely unique additive formulation, different detergents, different anti-wear agents, different friction modifiers compared to anything Idemitsu sells under its own name. The base oil shares DNA. The finished product does not. Every batch must clear dual certification. First, Idemitsu's ISO 9001 manufacturing standards. Then Honda's own HTO06 specification testing, which demands API SN Plus certification for low-speed pre-ignition protection, an ILSAC GF-6A rating for fuel economy and turbocharger protection, a minimum of 25% Group 3 synthetic content, maximum NOAC volatility of 15% to control oil consumption, phosphorus between 600 and 800 parts per million for catalytic converter safety, and high temperature, high shear viscosity between 2.6 and 2.9 centipoise at 150 degrees Celsius. That spec sheet is going to matter a lot later because it's the exact yardstick we'll use to test whether you're actually getting something special for that $10.99 price tag. But first, let's follow this oil from crude to bottle. The manufacturing process runs through 8 stages, and understanding them explains why Honda picked Idemitsu over dozens of other refiners. It starts with crude oil sourcing. Idemitsu imports crude primarily from the UAE at 42%, Saudi Arabia at 28%, and Russia at 18%, arriving by tanker at Japanese deep-water ports. That crude enters atmospheric distillation towers, heated to 370 degrees Celsius, where molecules separate by boiling point. The heavy gas oil fraction, boiling between 340 and 540 degrees Celsius, becomes your motor oil feedstock. Next comes hydrocracking, and this is where Idemitsu's expertise really shows. That gas oil faces 2,000 pounds per square inches of pressure and 400 degrees Celsius in the presence of hydrogen and proprietary catalysts. Long hydrocarbon chains crack into shorter, more uniform molecules, producing Group 3 base oil with far better thermal stability than conventional refining can achieve. From there, catalytic dewaxing cools the base oil to -20 degrees Celsius, crystallizing and removing paraffin wax. Without this step, your 0W20 would turn to sludge in a cold climate winter. Then Honda's proprietary additive package goes in at precise ratios: ZDDP at 0.08% for anti-wear protection, calcium sulfonates at 0.15% as detergents, molybdenum compounds at 0.05% for friction reduction, and viscosity index improvers between 5 and 8%. Automated blending tanks mix everything for 4 hours at 60 degrees Celsius. Every batch then faces a 1-2 point quality analysis covering viscosity at 2 temperatures, cold cranking simulation at -30 degrees Celsius, flash point, total base number, and contaminant screening for metals, water, and particulates. Only after passing all 12 tests does the oil move to high-speed bottling lines running at 120 bottles per minute. That covers the Japanese side of production. But if you're buying Honda oil in America, there's a twist most people never hear about. Honda's North American supply chain runs a dual-source system, and your bottle could come from either one depending on where you live. The primary supplier is Idemitsu Lubricants America, operating out of Mount Prospect, Illinois, with an annual capacity of 185,000 barrels. They cover the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Arizona, plus the Northeast Corridor from New York through Massachusetts. About 40% of those bottles are actually pre-filled at Idemitsu's Chiba plant in Japan and shipped through the port of Long Beach. You can spot these because the label reads manufactured by Idemitsu Lubricants America with an Illinois facility code. The secondary supplier is Phillips, 66 through their Kendall division, running a blending plant in Lathrop, California at 95,000 barrels per year. They handle the Midwest, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and the South Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Tennessee. Phillips 66 produces Honda oil using Idemitsu-supplied base stock blended with Honda additive packages shipped from Japan. Same recipe, different kitchen. And here's how you identify these bottles. The label only says, distributed by American Honda Motor Co., without naming the manufacturer. That missing name is your tell. Honda uses two manufacturers for one reason: distribution efficiency. Idemitsu sits near coastal ports with direct container ship access. Phillips 66 leverages existing petroleum pipeline infrastructure from Texas and Oklahoma. Together, Honda saves roughly $2.40 per 12-quart case compared to a single-source model. Both suppliers submit quarterly batch samples to Honda R&D Americas in Raymond, Ohio for independent testing. Rejection rate since 2018 sits below 0.3%. Now, if you happen to be in Europe, you're getting an entirely different product from an entirely different manufacturer. In the EU, Honda partners with Castrol, the BP subsidiary, producing at their facility in Hamburg, Germany. And the formula genuinely differs. European Honda oil uses Castrol's Group 4 PAO synthetic base instead of Idemitsu's Group 3, carries lower phosphorus at 500 parts per million versus 700 inches American versions, and costs €12.50 per litre, roughly 37% more than US pricing. Different regulations, different chemistry, different cost. In the Asia-Pacific region, Idemitsu handles everything directly. Japan's domestic supply comes from the Chiba and Aichi refineries, serving over 4,500 dealerships. China runs through a joint venture with PetroChina in Tianjin. And Japan gets exclusive ultra-low viscosity grades like 0W8 and 0W12 for K-car engines that aren't sold anywhere else in the world. So now we know who makes it and where. The real question, is it worth the price? We pulled data from 3 independent sources. No brand sponsorships. No affiliate deals. Just numbers. Project Farm's March 2024 test ran 12 motor oils through 6 standardized tests. Honda Genuine 0W20 scored 29,500 centipoise in cold flow at -40 degrees Fahrenheit, second best of the group, behind only Motorcraft. Strong cold start protection, but on NOAC volatility, Honda showed 13.8% evaporation, 6th of 12, while Mobil 1 led at just 11.2%. Honda loses more oil to heat evaporation than premium synthetics. On the 4-ball wear test, Honda landed at 0.42 mm scar diameter, respectable at 4th place, though Royal Purple led at 0.38. Blackstone Laboratories gave us something even more useful: real-world data from 847 Honda genuine oil samples submitted by actual vehicle owners between 2021 and 2024. Average wear metals at 5,000 miles came in at iron 9 parts per million, copper 4, chromium 1, lead 2, all within normal ranges. Total base number retention held at 72% at the 5,000-mile mark, well above the 50% floor for adequate detergency. Blackstone's own conclusion was that Honda Genuine performed statistically equivalent to Pennzoil Platinum and Castrol Edge in same vehicle comparisons. The SAE Sequence E8 test, the official high-temperature deposit test for API SN Plus certification, showed Honda scoring 4.8 out of 5 on piston cleanliness and passing the certification threshold. With an 18% margin, nearly double the industry average of 9%. In plain language, Honda Genuine Motor Oil is a solid, above-average performer, but it does not outperform Mobil 1 or Pennzoil Platinum in any single test category. And when you look at the cost structure, that gap becomes harder to ignore. The total landed cost to the dealer is $4.50 per quart. That covers $3.20 for manufacturing and bottling, $0.45 for trucking, $0.25 for warehousing, and $0.60 for final delivery. The dealer retails it at $10.99, a 144% markup. Honda takes about $1.30 per quart in licensing and specification fees, adding up to roughly $6.5 million in annual profit from branded oil alone. That margin is why dealership service advisors push Honda Genuine so hard. Which brings us to something every Honda owner needs to hear. Under the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act federal law, 15 U.S.C. Section 2302, Honda cannot void your powertrain warranty for using non-genuine motor oil. For Honda to deny a warranty claim based on oil choice, they would need to prove the specific aftermarket oil directly caused the failure. That burden of proof falls on Honda, not you. And Honda's own 2024 Accord Owner's Manual on page 418 spells it out. It reads, "Use Honda Genuine Motor Oil or another commercial engine oil of suitable viscosity and quality." Honda themselves authorize alternatives meeting their specs. So, what actually meets Honda HTO06? Look for 3 things on the API donut symbol on the back of any oil bottle. The top arc should read API SN Plus or API SP. The center must show the correct viscosity 0W20 for most 2018 and newer Hondas. And the bottom should display ILSAC GF-6A. Brands confirmed to meet that spec include Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic 0W20 at $6.99 a quart, Mobil 1 Advanced Fuel Economy 0W20 at $7.47 with higher PAO content than Honda's own formula, Castrol Edge 0W20 at $7.28, Kirkland Signature 0W20 from Costco at just $5.12, and even Supertech Full Synthetic at Walmart for $4.88. All carry the correct API SP and ILSAC GF-6A certifications. What does not meet Honda spec? Any oil showing only API SN without the plus suffix, synthetic blends that fail Honda's 25% Group 3 minimum, high mileage formulas with seal conditioners that can increase oil consumption in newer engines, and racing oils that lack API certification entirely. If you do choose an aftermarket oil, keep your receipts, photograph the API donut on every bottle you use, and maintain your change intervals per the owner's manual. If a dealer ever pushes back on a warranty claim, ask them to put that denial in writing, citing the specific oil-related failure mode. That single request tends to resolve most disputes on the spot. One more layer to this story. The Honda Idemitsu relationship is shifting and shifting fast. In 2024, Honda sold 1.2 million vehicles in the US, and 96% were internal combustion. That translates to roughly 4.6 million quarts of annual oil demand. By 2030, Honda projects 40% EV sales, dropping oil demand to an estimated 2.8 million quarts, a 39% decline. By 2035, with 75% EV penetration, demand craters to just 1.2 million quarts. Idemitsu sees this coming. They're already developing dielectric cooling fluids for Honda's immersion-cooled battery packs going into the Prologue and the upcoming N series. They're also formulating specialized e-axle transmission fluids for electric motors, spinning at up to 17,000 revolutions per minute, speeds where traditional automatic transmission fluid would corrode copper windings within months. The company that has made Honda's engine oil for 52 years is retooling to make the fluids that will replace it. That's how a partnership survives when the original product is slowly disappearing. So the answer is clear. Idemitsu Kosan makes the majority of Honda genuine motor oil, Phillips 66 handles regional production across the American interior, and Castrol covers Europe with a different formula entirely. The oil itself is a well-made Group 3 synthetic. Independent lab data confirms it performs on par with alternatives, costing 30 to 50% less. The premium buys brand assurance, not superior chemistry. Now, Honda isn't the only automaker whose oil comes from somewhere unexpected. We tested Toyota genuine motor oil head-to-head against Mobil 1, Pennzoil, and Valvoline in a full lab comparison, and the results surprised us. That video is on screen right now.